If you live in Tokyo long enough, you start thinking of train stations as living things. They breathe in the morning, swallow tens of thousands of people, and exhale them into offices and schools. They pulse in the evening, lines backed up like veins. They sleep, sort of, after the last train, dim and humming, lights half off, announcements hushed. And, like anything that lives, they shed. Umbrellas. IC cards. Keychains, wallets, love letters, resignation letters, test prep books, stuffed toys. For 3 years, I worked where all of that ended up, the lost and found office of a big station on the edge of central Tokyo. I didn't apply because I believed in reuniting people with their belongings. I applied because the posting said mostly night shift, and I thought, stupidly, that night shift meant easy money with nothing to do. I was wrong. But not in the way I expected. The office was down a staff-only corridor near the east exit, behind a beige door with a peeling sticker that said, "Lost Property." By day, it was busy. People lined up after realizing their wallets were lighter, their bags were open, their umbrellas missing. A tired woman in her 40s and a constantly rotating cast of part-timers tried to match faces to piles of objects. By night, it was usually just me. The station emptied after the last train. The shutters rolled down on the shops. The announcement switched from train arriving on track 3 to a polite mechanical voice reminding no one in particular that the station was closing. Please do not loiter. That was when the cleaners, maintenance staff, and we, the ones who dealt with the leftovers of the day, took over. The job wasn't glamorous, but it had a rhythm. Crew would bring in items at set times, anything left on trains terminating at our station, anything found on platforms or in toilets or wedged behind vending machines. We logged each item, where it was found, the line, the time, any identifiable features. If someone came to claim something, we'd check their description against the logs and the object. Ask for ID for wallets and phones. Smile the official smile as they thanked us like we'd saved their lives. There was a kind of intimacy in handling so many pieces of strangers. You start to imagine their owners. The student who left her English textbook, margins full of tiny notes. The exhausted salaryman who forgot his laptop. The couple who dropped a Purakura sticker album that made my teeth ache with how happy they looked. Most items found their way home within a few days. The rest went into long-term storage somewhere deeper in the station's guts, where even I rarely went. And then there were the coin lockers. If lost and found is the station's memory, coin lockers are its subconscious. People stuff things into them in a hurry, shopping bags, backpacks, souvenirs, secrets. They tell themselves they'll be back in an hour or by evening, and sometimes they are. Sometimes they're not. Once or twice a week, long after the last train, a security guard would knock on our office door and say, "Locker clearance." If a locker had gone too long without being emptied, usually 3 days for small ones, a week for big luggage lockers, maintenance opened it and brought the contents to us. Most of the time, it was boring: clothes, books, a suitcase full of nothing interesting. Sometimes it was weird. A single shoe, expensive. A box of expired supplements. An urn, empty, thankfully. Once, a sealed envelope with a USB drive and a note that said "Do not watch." I logged it like anything else and tried very hard to forget which shelf it went onto. We joked about cursed lockers, about people who stuffed their guilt into a metal box and walked away. We joked, because the alternative was thinking too hard about all the reasons someone might not come back. In my 3rd year, the station upgraded its coin locker system. Smart lockers, they called them. You could pay with IC card or app, no physical key. Everything was tied to a database. No more lost keys. No more arguments at the counter. For us, it meant one more screen. The new software showed a map of the station, with each locker bank as a cluster of little rectangles. Green, empty. Blue, occupied. Red, error/out of service. The morning they turned it on, the technician gave us a quick tutorial and a fake smile. "If you see any locker stuck in blue for too long, call us," he said. "We'll send someone to check." It might be a jammed door, a failed payment, something simple. Or a body, one of the older staff joked. The tech did not laugh. After he left, we poked at the map, zooming in and out, locating the locker banks we knew by sight. Basement near the supermarket, check. North exit, 3rd floor, check. Behind the bakery, check. I noticed it a week later. I was alone on night shift, halfway through a lukewarm canned coffee, when a red rectangle on the map caught my eye. Not quite red. Something in between. A rectangle with a black border. I zoomed in. Locker B4-031. Status, out of service / do not assign. Last opened. Occupancy, occupied. Last status update, 203. The timestamp had no date. Just 203. I frowned. I knew that locker bank. B4 was the deepest basement level, near an old exit they only opened during big events. I'd helped maintenance clear those lockers after a concert once. Out-of-service lockers were usually gray on the map, not marked. This one shouldn't have been visible at all. I checked the physical layout. B4-030, 032, 033 were all there. 031 was not. Maybe the numbering had changed. Maybe the software was out of date. I made a note to ask in the morning and moved on. Small stations have simple ghosts, one woman on one platform in one story. Big stations have complex ones. No one tells you that. The next night, I checked the map again. I don't know why. Habit, maybe. Curiosity, definitely. B4-031 was still there. Still out of service / do not assign. Still occupied. Still last status update, 203. This time, I noticed something else. On the main screen, the overview, the dot representing the B4 locker bank pulsed faintly at 2:03 a.m. I stared at the ticking clock in the corner of the monitor. 1:59. I told myself it was just a refresh cycle. At 2:03, right on schedule, the little dot flickered. B4-031's entry briefly changed. Occupancy, empty. Then, half a second later. Occupancy, occupied. No sound. No alert. Just 2 lines changing in a table. I felt a chill along my spine. It's a bug, I told my empty office. Just a glitch. Or a misconfigured locker they never physically installed. Still. The next night, I went down to basement level 4. Most people never see B4. Even on busy days, it's quiet down there. The corridors are lined with mechanical rooms, storage, a few staff entrances. The air is cooler. The fluorescent lights buzz with a different tone. The locker bank sat in a half-lit alcove near a heavy emergency exit door. 20 lockers, 4 rows of 5. Numbers neat, white on black. 028, 029, 030. 032, 033. I counted. Twice. Number 031. I checked the side panels. Nothing. If there had ever been a 031, the metal was smooth where it should have been. No scars. No bolt holes. Just a gap in the numbers, like a missing tooth. I took out my phone and pulled up the staff app. The map showed B4-031, bright blue, occupied. My eyes told me it wasn't there. My phone insisted it was. The emergency exit door beside the lockers had a sign. Emergency use only, alarm will sound if opened. I pressed my ear to it. Nothing. No hum. No air movement. No sense of space. Just thick, painted metal. I went back upstairs. The office seemed smaller that night. The locker map, when I glanced at it, looked like a grid of eyes. I forced myself not to look for B4-031 again. I still counted the seconds to 2:03. At 2:03, I heard it for the first time. A metallic clunk. Very soft. Like a locker door closing. Right behind me. When I turned, the office was empty. The wall of temporary storage shelves stood where it always did, neat rows of umbrellas, neatly labeled boxes, forgotten bags. No lockers. No doors. No one. The sound hadn't come from anywhere in front of me. It had come from inside the wall. I think the new system is bugged, I told my supervisor the next day. She pushed her glasses up, frowned at the monitor, and compared it to a paper map. B4-031, she said. There's number 031. Must be a mapping error. I'll send an email to IT. I hesitated. Should we? I don't know, mark it differently. I said. So no one accidentally assigns it. She laughed. This is back-end, she said. Only staff see this. Customers don't pick specific numbers. The system does. If it's marked do not assign, it won't give it out. What about the occupancy status? I asked. It says it's always occupied. That seems... She shrugged. Maybe someone hard-coded it that way so no one touches it, she said. Frankly, with all the other problems we have, one imaginary locker doesn't worry me. It worried me. But I let it go. Until the first time something missing turned up that shouldn't have. On a Wednesday night, a man in his 30s came to the counter just before closing. He looked exhausted in the way only salarymen can, tie loosened, eyes red, briefcase hanging by his side like it weighed 1,000,000 kilos. Excuse me, he said politely. I lost something. I gestured to the form. Please describe it, I said. It's stupid, he said. Not valuable. Just important to me. I smiled. That's why people come here, I said. Go ahead. He hesitated, then wrote. Old flip phone, black, with strap small white dog. Left in B4 locker area, around 2 a.m. Flip phone? I said, surprised. Those still exist? He laughed weakly. It was my mother's, he said. After she died, I kept it. Couldn't bring myself to throw it away. I use a smartphone now, but I sometimes turn hers on. To read old messages. He rubbed his face. I was drunk last night, he admitted. Came back from a client dinner, took the wrong exit, ended up down in that weird basement. I sat for a bit near the lockers. I remember holding the phone. Then I don't remember. This morning it wasn't in my bag. Which locker did you use? I asked. I didn't, he said. That area felt creepy. I didn't want to leave anything there. I just sat on the bench. There's no bench on B4, I said automatically. He blinked. Maybe I'm mixing it up, he said. It was late. I checked the locker map. B4-028, empty. 029, empty. 030, empty. 032, empty. 033, empty. 031, occupied. Wait here, I said. I went to the back and checked the rolling racks where new items from that day were stored. Nothing matched. We logged items by time and location, too. Phone found on B2 concourse. Wallet, line A platform. Suica, ticket gate C4. B4 locker area was almost always empty. That place just didn't get much traffic. At 2 a.m., it should have been completely dead. I went back to the counter. I'm sorry, I said. Nothing like that has been turned in. If you write your contact info, we'll call if it appears. He nodded, filled in his number, and left, shoulders sagging. Later that night, after last train, after the cleaners had waved goodnight, the locker map flickered. B4-031, occupancy-empty. I held my breath. What if something moves when it does that? I thought. Before I could decide whether that was a stupid thought or not, the office door opened. One of the security guards, Tanaka, mid-50s, kind eyes, held up a clear plastic bag. "Locker clearance," he said. "Odd one this time. No record in the system, but the door was ajar." Tech said it must have been a blip. Inside the bag was a black flip phone with a small white dog strap. My skin went cold. "Where did you find it?" I asked, even though I knew. "B4 lockers," he said. "Weird, right? That whole bank hasn't been used in weeks, but there it was, sitting halfway out of what should have been an empty spot." "Which locker?" I asked. He shrugged. "The tech grumbled about numbering," he said. "Said something about skipped value. I just take what they give me." I logged the phone. Owner's description matched perfectly. When I called the number he'd left, he came running back within 20 minutes, even though it was nearly 1 a.m. He held the bag like it might disappear. "I thought it was gone," he said. "Thank you." He hesitated. When I sat down there, he said slowly, "I remember putting the phone on the bench next to me. I must have drifted off. When I woke up, I was closer to the lockers. Like I'd slid. And I had this strange feeling that someone had been sitting on my other side." He smiled, embarrassed. "Sorry," he said. "Stupid. Anyway. Thanks again." After he left, I checked the time. 1:42. On the map, B4-031 flickered. Occupancy, occupied. Last status update, 2:03. I didn't sleep well that day. After that, I started noticing a pattern. Not at first. At first, it was just a background hum of coincidences. A woman came in looking for a sketchbook she dropped somewhere near the B4 stairwell. A high school boy lost a letter from his girlfriend, last seen by that creepy door where it's always cold. A cleaner turned in a single left glove, found at the non-existent bench. Most of the time, the item showed up in normal places. On other floors. On platforms. In trains. Just late. As if they'd taken a detour through somewhere else first. Then came the night with the IC card. It was a Sunday, which meant the lost and found office had been a zoo all day, weekend shoppers, parents with kids, tourists with suitcases. By the time night fell, I was already tired, my brain a blur of forms and faces. Around 1 a.m., one of the cleaning staff, Saki, mid-20s, headphones always around her neck, came in and dropped a tray of items on the counter. "Trash run," she said. "Toilets, platforms, under benches. You know the drill." We went through them, a half-empty lipstick, a cheap scarf, an umbrella with a cracked handle. At the bottom of the tray was an IC card. Plain, no character design, just the standard green logo. "Where was this?" I asked. She frowned. "In a weird spot," she said. "B4. I don't usually go down there, but today there was a request to check the emergency exit area for trash." She made a face. "Freaks me out, that floor. It's too quiet." "Emergency exit?" I said. "Yeah," she said. "Door was locked, of course." I was sweeping by the lockers when I saw something flat under the edge of the panel. Like it had been slid as far in as possible, like a kid hiding a bad test. I pulled it out. It was that card. My mouth was dry. "Any bench?" I asked, before I could stop myself. She blinked. "Bench," she said. "No? Just lockers and that creepy door." She shrugged. "Anyway, it's not just trash," she said. "So it's yours now." I logged the IC card. "We have a system that can look up the registered owner using the serial number. There's a process, paperwork, privacy rules." I filled out the form, half on autopilot. When I entered the number, the system pulled up the name. Sakaguchi Yuna. Female. 20. A note in the status field. Card reissued, original reported lost, owner deceased. My chest tightened. We see that sometimes. People die. Families report cards lost when closing accounts. It's sad, but distant. This time, the dates lined up. Card issued 2 years ago. Card reported lost 1 year ago. Owner date of death 1 year ago. Recent usage, none. All normal. Except for one detail. Under issue/reissue location, a station code sat next to the date. Our station. I scrolled through her card history. Train entries/exits. Locker payments. One line froze me. Locker usage, B4-031. Date time, 1 year plus 1 day ago 2:03. I sat back. The clock on the wall read 1:55. I looked at the locker map. B4-031 glowed. Occupancy, occupied. Last status update, 2:03. My hands shook. I could have told myself the database was wrong. A copy-paste error. I would have, if not for the note in the card's comments field. It was from a staff member who'd handled the owner-deceased process. Owner jumped in front of train at X station, it said. Family collected personal effects. Last recorded use of IC card was locker payment at our station, B4-031, 1 minute before incident. Card never recovered. I remembered that day. We'd all heard about the person on track's delay. We had cursed the disruption, and then, after the announcement said, personal injury accident, we'd fallen silent, each building our own mental image of someone stepping into the path of something that couldn't stop. I hadn't known that, minutes before, that person had stood on my station's deepest floor and put something into a locker that didn't exist. At 2:03, the map flickered. B4-031, empty-occupied. Behind me, the soft metallic clunk. Like a promise. Like a heartbeat. After that, I couldn't pretend B4-031 was a simple bug. I started watching the map around 2:03 every night. The dot pulsed. The status flipped. And, always within the next hour, something from somewhere it shouldn't be would make its way to my counter. A phone from before with no owner. An earring from a platform that had been closed all night. A train pass from a deceased commuter. And every few nights, someone came looking for something they'd lost near the old lockers or by the emergency door. They always described it as not valuable, just important. They all had one other thing in common. They all used the word felt. I felt like there was someone sitting next to me, even though I was alone. I felt like the locker was already full, even when I could see it was empty. I felt like if I opened the door, there'd be something inside with my name on it. I tried to talk about it once. Not to colleagues. To Saki, the cleaner. She'd seen enough weird night shift things that I thought she'd at least laugh in the right places. We were on break, sitting on crates in the back corridor, sharing vending machine coffee. Do you believe in haunted places? I asked. She snorted. This is Japan, she said. Everything older than 5 years has a ghost. You have to prioritize. No, I mean. I hesitated. Places that collect something. Patterns. Like tunnels where too many accidents happen. Or crossings where people keep, you know. She sipped her coffee, eyes narrowing. You mean suicide spots, she said bluntly. You can say the word. I swallowed. Yeah, I said. Those. She leaned back against the concrete wall. I think people choose those spots because they've heard of them, she said. It's a loop. Someone dies there, it becomes a story, someone else sees themselves in that story, they go there too. Place itself? Just dirt and concrete. Story is the ghost. Her words lodged in my head. Story is the ghost. What about lockers? I asked. She laughed. Coin lockers, she said. What, like if you put your problem in there it'll come back scarier? I didn't laugh. She glanced at me, expression shifting. Okay, she said slowly. What did you see? I told her about the missing locker on before. About the map. About the 203 pulse. About the IC card and the woman who died. Saki listened, tapping her cup with one fingernail. Could be a bug, she said when I finished. You don't believe me, I said. I think you're tired, she said. Too much night, too many sad things. Your brain is connecting dots it shouldn't. What if it's not just my brain? I insisted. What if? What if it is? She cut in. Walking around this place at night, you start hearing things. Seeing things. If we let every creak and clunk become a ghost, we'd never get anything done. She finished her coffee and stood. Look, she said, softer now. You're a good guy. You take people's lost junk seriously. That's rare. But you can't carry everything. Some things get lost and stay lost. That's just how it is. As she walked away, I thought. She's right. She has to be right. Because the alternative is that I'm working in an office with a door to somewhere that eats memories at a fixed time every night. That night, at 2:03, the clunk was louder. When I closed my eyes, I saw a locker door swinging shut on fingers that looked like mine. The dream started a week later. I was on before. Sitting on a bench that doesn't exist. The lockers stretched in a line beside me. Their numbers were wrong. Not 4-digit codes. Names. Sakaguchi. Tanaka. Yamamoto. Mine. I held something in my lap. A box. Small, black, heavy. I knew, without opening it, what was inside. Not an object. A night. A memory. One I'd locked away. My phone vibrated. When I looked, the screen didn't show a notification. It showed a timer. 2 hours 2 minutes and 47 seconds. It ticked down. Someone sat down beside me. I couldn't see their face. Just the dark shape of their shoulder, the smell of wet clothing, the faint sound of water dripping. They put their hand on the box. It's almost time, they said. Their voice sounded like mine would, cracked and hollow, if I screamed for a long time in a small space. What happens if I don't put it in? I asked. You already did, they said. You're just here to remember. The timer hit 2 hours and 3 minutes. Behind us, one locker door opened. Another closed. The clunk woke me. I sat up on the futon in my tiny apartment, heart hammering, the real-world glow of my phone casting weird shadows on the ceiling. 2:03. Of course. I told myself I'd started dreaming about lockers because I thought about them too much. I told myself the station had crept under my skin. I told myself it was just stress. But the dream came back. Not every night. Often enough. The bench in the box and the unseen person beside me. And, always, the same sense that something important had happened at 2:03 a.m. long before I ever got that job. Something I had been very careful not to think about. I was wrong about why I took the job. I remember that on a Tuesday afternoon, when a high school girl came to the counter with shaking hands. I lost something, she said. My exam ticket. For mock exams. My mom will kill me. I did the usual. Asked where she'd last had it. The locker map said she'd opened a locker near the north exit that morning. Not before, I said, relieved. She shook her head. North, she said. I put my bag in, went to meet my friends, took the bag back out, rode the train, and somewhere between here and cram school, the exam ticket vanished. I swear I left it in my bag. She started to cry. I found it through pure luck. A commuter had turned it in at a different gate, thinking it was a receipt. When I handed it back, the girl's relief was so intense she bowed 3 times, tears dropping on the counter. Thank you, she said. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Watching her clutch the ticket, I felt a rush of something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not just relief. Not just satisfaction. Something like redemption. That was when I remembered. Not the event. The feeling. Why the job posting had appealed to me, beyond night shift and easy. Reunite people with what they've lost, the ad had said. I'd laughed when I saw it. Yeah, I'd thought. Maybe I can give back one thing, if I couldn't save the other. The other I hadn't let myself define. The other shaped like a person, not an object. The other whose name I couldn't say without the air in my lungs turning heavy. The dreams got worse after that. In them, the bench and the box were still there. But the name on the locker in front of me changed. It no longer said only my surname. It said another, too. One I recognized from the spool of memories I kept tightly wound. The name of my high school friend. The one who died. Not at a station. On a bridge. So why did the time on the timer in the dream say 2:03? You can carry guilt for so long it becomes part of your posture. You stop noticing that you slouch around certain topics. That your voice goes flat when someone jokes about accidents on the train lines. That you avoid certain stations without knowing why. Working at Lost and Found, I watched people relieved of small guilts every day. I thought I'd lost it forever. I was sure it was my fault. I can breathe now. I never thought the station might want something from me in return. Then came the night the locker called my name. Not metaphorically. Literally. The corridor outside the office was quiet. It was a slow night. No major delays, no big events, no school trips. I sat at the desk, the locker map open on one monitor, social media on the other. At 2:02, something flickered at the edge of my vision. Text, in the corner of the map. B4-031, status message updated. I frowned. Locker status messages were for maintenance, door jammed, card reader faulty, cleaning needed. I clicked. Message. Haru. My name. No one at work called me that. Everyone used my last name. I sat very still. The clock ticked. 2 hours 2 minutes and 30 seconds. A new line appeared below my name. Can you hold this for me? My mouse hand was slick with sweat. I stood up so fast my chair rolled back and hit the shelf. The sound echoed. Somewhere far below, in a concrete corridor, something metallic answered. Just a glitch, I whispered. On the map, the dot for B4 pulsed faintly. 2 hours 2 minutes and 50 seconds. You're good at looking after other people's things, aren't you? Every instinct screamed at me to close the window. To shut off the monitor. To walk out, up the stairs, out of the station, into the cold night air, and never come back. Instead, I did something that, in retrospect, feels like exactly what the station wanted. I picked up my staff ID. I locked the office door. And I went down to B4. The corridor was colder than usual. The lights hummed. The locker bank waited, metal doors dull in the weak fluorescent glow. 0:30. 0:32. The gap where 0:31 should be. I stood there, breathing too fast, my heart pounding in my ears. This is stupid, I told myself. It's just a misaligned database. Some bored dev playing a prank. The emergency exit door beside the locker bank had a new sign. Under maintenance, do not use. The handle was wrapped in yellow tape. I reached out. My fingers hovered over the cold metal. From the other side of the door, I heard it. A soft clink. Like something small and heavy being placed gently in a metal box. Then a voice. Not through the door. Behind me. Close enough that I felt breath on my ear. Can you hold this for me? I spun around. The corridor was empty. No one. No Saki. No security. No late commuter. Just the lockers. And, for a second, a sixth sense of a bench that shouldn't exist, at the edge of vision, vanishing when I tried to look straight at it. I backed away. My shoulder brushed metal. I flinched. It was 032. Normal. I looked down. At my feet, half under the edge of the non-existent 031, something small and black jutted out. A USB drive. No label. No ring. Just plastic and metal. My hand shook as I picked it up. It was warm. As if someone had been holding it until a second ago. On my phone, a notification popped up from the staff app. Locker system, manual input log. B4-031, occupied empty. Item transferred, lost property. Handler, blank. I swallowed. The timestamp read 2:03. I stared at the drive. How many things have you pulled out of that door? I whispered. The air didn't answer. All at once, I felt very small. Like a minor organ in a huge, indifferent creature. I put the USB drive in my pocket and went back to the office. I did not log it. I should have. I know that. Keeping lost property off the books is against every rule. But something in me knew that whatever this was, it wasn't meant for the spreadsheet. It was meant for me. I sat at the desk, the drive on the mousepad, my fingers hovering. Every horror instinct screamed not to plug it into the work computer. So I did the slightly less stupid thing and plugged it into my own laptop. The drive had one folder. The folder had one file. A video. No metadata. No creation date. Just a name, 0203.mp4. I almost closed the window. Instead, I double-clicked. The video was low-res, slightly grainy. Station footage. I recognized the angle, one of the older cameras from my hometown station, not this one. The timestamp in the corner was from 6 years ago. I watched myself walk into frame. High school uniform. Bag slung over one shoulder. Head down. Beside me, laughing, talking, practically bouncing with energy, was another boy. Show. My best friend. We were cutting through the station late, on our way back from somewhere we weren't supposed to be. The details of the day had blurred. But the video made it sharp. We stopped near the far end of the platform. The camera picked up scraps of our conversation. Told you they'd still be open. Shut up, we almost missed last train. Come on, it was fun, admit it. I looked different than I remembered. Smaller, yes, but also lighter. No weight between my shoulders. No careful avoidance in my eyes. Just a kid. On the screen, a train pulled in. Not many people got off. Show turned to say something to me. The audio didn't catch it. I remembered anyway. Bet you won't stand that close, he'd said, grinning, towing the yellow line. I'd laughed and shoved him. Bet you won't shut up. He'd stepped back. Not far. Just enough that his heel was half over the line. On the video, the next part happened fast. Someone else came running along the platform, late. They brushed my shoulder. I stumbled forward, then righted myself. Show, mid-laugh, tried to grab my arm. His foot slipped. For half a second, he teetered. My hand shot out. Paused. You can see it frame by frame. The moment where I could have grabbed his sleeve. The moment I flinched instead. The moment I took a step back. He fell. The video glitched. Cut. Came back to the aftermath, people shouting, station staff running, a gap in the crowd where I knew he lay. The raw noise of panic, tinny through bad speakers. The camera zoomed in on nothing in particular. In the corner of the frame, my younger self stood frozen. Someone grabbed my shoulders, shook me. My mouth moved. Sound didn't come. The video cut again. New angle. Station office. Crying parents. Staff. Police. Me, sitting on a chair, a blanket around my shoulders like a costume. A man with a notebook leaned forward. What happened? He asked. I looked at him. At the camera. At the world. And I said the line everyone wanted. It was an accident, I mouthed. He slipped. The video paused. Frames reversed. The moment at the platform replayed. Hand reaching. Not reaching. Reaching. Not reaching. Over and over. My laptop screen went black. Then a line of text appeared, white on black. What did you lose that night? My throat closed. Tears blurred my vision. Everything, I whispered. Another line appeared. Would you like to put it in safekeeping? I thought of the bench in the dream. Of the box on my lap. Of the way my life had been around that night, unconsciously, toward jobs where I handled other people's losses instead of my own. I stared at the screen. Is that what you are? I said hoarsely. A safe? A place people dump the things they can't carry? Their guilt, their last messages, their exam tickets, their mother's phones? No reply. Just my reflection in the dark screen. Behind my shoulder, for a second, I thought I saw someone else. A boy in a high school uniform. Show. Smiling that same stupid, bright smile. You always were good at holding on to things, Haru, he said. I spun. The office was empty. I was alone. The USB drive sat on the desk, inert. On the locker map, B4-031 blinked. Occupancy, occupied. Last status update, 203. The next day, I called in sick. I went to my hometown station for the first time in years. The platform looked smaller. The yellow line, wider. There was a new barrier now, glass panels that slid open only when the train arrived. After the accident, the news articles had said, the railway company promised to prevent future tragedies. Show's name wasn't anywhere visible. No plaque. No marker. No official memory. But I knew where he'd stood. Where I'd stood. I stood there again, behind the barrier, hand on the glass. Hey, I muttered under my breath. I saw it. The video. They kept it somewhere. Somewhere that didn't exist. For 6 years. A group of high school kids pushed past me, laughing, arguing about some idol group. I stepped back. My phone buzzed. A notification from the staff app, even though I was off the clock. Locker system alert. B4-031 status, occupied, item ready for collection. Handler, my staff ID. I stared at it. Time, 2:03. But I wasn't in the station. I was here. At the place where I'd lost him. The trains came and went. No one else saw the way the air shimmered, just for a second, in front of the old camera mounted high on the wall. No one else heard the faint metallic clunk under the platform, like a locker closing. I went back to work the night after. The office felt different. Not because anything had moved. Because I had. I didn't open the locker map. I didn't look at before. Instead, I pulled out a blank lost property form and started writing. Item description, one night on a train platform. Weight, heavier than bone. Condition, worn at the edges. Owner, me. I filled it out like any other log. When I reached the box for were found, I hesitated. Then I wrote, between the yellow line and the tracks. Between then and now. Between my hand and his sleeve. Under special notes, I wrote, I don't want this back. I folded the paper. Got up. Walked down to B4. The corridor hummed with the same cold quiet. The locker bank waited, gap where 031 should be. The emergency exit doors tape had been replaced. Under maintenance, it still said. As if anyone ever maintained that kind of crack. I sat down on the there and not there bench. For the first time, I didn't look away when it tried to blur. I unfolded the paper. I have something to deposit, I said aloud. My voice echoed. Shortest term possible. I laid the folded form on the smooth metal where 031 ought to be. For a second, nothing happened. Then the paper slid, as if pulled, disappearing into the panel. The clunk sounded from inside the wall. Soft. Satisfied. On my phone, a notification popped up. Locker B4-031, occupancy updated. Item, redacted. Owner, redacted. Handler, redacted. Status, in safekeeping. Thank you for using the locker system, a polite female voice said from somewhere deep in the wiring. I laughed, a broken sound. Tears spilled down my face. I'm not forgetting him, I said. Just putting the weight somewhere else. For a while. The air felt lighter. Not cleansed. Just slightly rebalanced. As I stood to go, I felt someone sit down where I'd been. I didn't turn. I didn't need to. Don't stay too long, I said to the empty bench. Last trains are unforgiving. As I walked away, I heard it. Thanks, Haru, Sho's voice said softly. I'll see you when you remember again. I still work at Lost and Found. I still reunite people with their umbrellas and exam tickets and phones and wallets. I still get that small hit of joy when someone's shoulders relax, when they stop blaming themselves. Sometimes, though, someone doesn't come back. Some items sit on the shelf for months. When that happens, and the item seems more like a confession than a possession, and the clock is near 2:03, and the station feels like it's listening, I write an extra copy of the form. I go down to B4. I place the paper on the smooth metal between 0:30 and 0:32. Sometimes it slides in. Sometimes it doesn't. I don't force it. The station decides what it's willing to keep. I don't know what will happen when B4-031 is truly full. Maybe it already is. Maybe it has no capacity limit, because stories weigh nothing and everything at once. I do know this. Recently, when I look at the locker map, B4-031 status has changed. Still out of service / do not assign. Still pulsing at 2:03. But the message field doesn't say my name anymore. It says, "Thank you for your hard work. Please take your own belongings home when you go." If you ever find yourself late at night in a big station, half asleep on a bench, clutching something you really should throw away but can't, and you feel someone sit down next to you, don't be too quick to drop it and walk away. Places like this are hungry. They'll hold it for you. For a while. But they'll want something in return. And if, while you're fumbling with a locker, the screen flickers and shows a number that shouldn't exist, and the payment time stamps 2:03 no matter what the clock on the wall says, step back. Take your guilt, your grief, your memories with you. Live with their weight. Because I've seen what happens when we stuff too much of ourselves into places that never forget. The station is always watching. The coin lockers are always listening. And somewhere below your feet, a door with no floor plan is counting down, waiting to see what you'll leave behind when the last train is gone.